Good morning and welcome to Peace Out, where we are all learning together to peace out. And all the things a couple of things I was so worried about yesterday worked out. Isn't that amazing how things like that happen, right? That happens all the time. We get all worked up about something. I didn't really get too worked up. I actually did pretty good in a pretty sticky situation. So I have to say I did go, okay, well, we'll just figure this out. There's no reason to stress out and there's no reason to worry about it because that won't make it better, right? If I could just convince myself of every time something crazy pops up. It's been a crazy weekend. This is only Tuesday, right? But I hope you're having a good week. I hope you were spared those in Oklahoma, were spared the storms, and I pray those stay safe as those storms build and go off towards the east throughout the rest of today and this week. I understand it's this time of year that we could just kind of expect storms. Don't we just see that life has storms? I mean, there's storms of life that come. There's struggles. We're not exempt just because we're believers. We're not exempt from life's difficulties and life's sticky situations. But the good thing is we understand there is a rock we can run to, and that rock is much bigger than we are. And I mean that's so important because we have the similar situations, believers and unbelievers. We all have family problems here and there. We all maybe have financial problems. We all can have health problems. We all can have very similar, or I should say, difficulties in similar types of circumstances. But the difference for the believer is we have a place to run. We have a peace that can carry us through those things. That's the advantage of being a believer, is that we know the one who can carry us through those things. We're not exempt from problems because we're a believer, and we're not. Our problems aren't necessarily any worse than anyone else's. We still live life. The difference is that we have someone walking with us who will carry us as needed. I use that phrase a lot in my caregiver blog. He carries us when we need it. And that's kind of what David was talking about in Psalm 61. This is what I woke up praying this morning, right? It starts out, it says this: hear my heart, O God, attend to my prayer, listen to my prayer. From the end of the earth, I will cry to you. From the ends of the earth, no matter where I am on this earth, I'm going to cry to you. No matter where I am emotionally, I'm going to cry to God. No matter where I am physically, literally sitting here or anywhere else in this earth, I'm going to cry out to God. And maybe he felt like he was being stretched. You ever felt that? It's just something that just came to mind. I'm sure I've never felt that way. But have you ever felt like you've just been stretched from one end of the earth to the other? It doesn't matter. We can still cry out to God. That's the key. That was David's heart that we see here. He says, when my heart is overwhelmed. You ever been overwhelmed? I think we live in a #overwhelmed world. I think we are all living on overwhelm, and there's just so much going on all the time. So many things drawing for our attention, for our thoughts, for our efforts, for our energy, for our strength, for us to put us into, and we have to learn to be selective and what we invest our energy in, right? But he says, when my heart is overwhelmed, lead me to the rock. What an awesome prayer. I'm going to be overwhelmed sometime. I'm going to be underwhelmed sometime. I'm going to be overcome sometime. But I always have God leading me back to himself, leading me back to his heart, because he's praying to the rock, not Dwayne the Rock, the God the Rock, right? He says, when my heart is overwhelmed, you lead me back to you, God, because you are that rock that is higher than I am. You are that rock that is stronger than I am. I can hide behind that rock. I can get on top of that rock and look around and see what is going on in my world. I find shelter behind that rock. Lead me back to where your heart is, God. Lead me back to your protective, that peace. Lead me back to, I might pray it this way: lead me back to your peace. Lead me back to where I know that you are my rock. I'm not trying to be that rock. I'm not trying to find somebody else to give me that strength. I'm not trying to find something else to give me that strength or that wisdom or the direction or the comfort. I need that one rock who is higher than I am, who is stronger than I am, who is bigger than I am, who can carry me through stuff, all right? Then he said, lead me to the rock that is higher than I. And then listen, this is what he did yesterday. It's like he reminded himself. He's praying. He's basically telling God, I am so overwhelmed right now. I've got so much stuff going on right now. He's like, but I'm going to cry to you, even though it feels like my world is ending. And then he says, I'm overwhelmed. Just lead me back to you. And then he reminds himself. Remember, we talked about how David reminded himself yesterday in the Psalm we talked about, Psalm 3. You have been a shelter for me, a strong tower from the enemy. So he has this little thing he does that he makes he says his prayer, says, I'm overwhelmed. And then he reminds himself of who God is. He doesn't remind himself of the bad situation he's in. He doesn't remind himself of the crazy things that's going on in his world. He reminds himself of who God has always been and who God will always be. You have been a shelter for me. You have been a strong tower from the enemy. And then guess what he does after that? Same thing he does in so many different Psalms. He makes a declaration. I will abide in your tabernacle forever. I will trust in the shelter of your wings. What a great pattern there to say, God, here's what's going on. That's a trust right there, just to give it back to God. Takes a high level of trust because we want to figure it out ourselves. We don't need God to help us figure it out. We can figure it out ourselves, right? I'm smart sometimes, once a day or so, right? We think we're smart. We can figure this out. But what if we just gave it back to God? Hear my cry. Here's what's going on. And then we say, I don't know what to do, but I will trust you. You go back to that declaration. I will abide with you. I will trust you. There's that declaration. I just love that pattern of, God, let's just be real gut level honest. Here's all the junk. I don't know what to do. I'm giving it to you. I'm going to trust you with it. And that's a perfect morning. That's a perfect day. That's a perfect situation because all of a sudden you've given it to God rather than trying to figure it out yourself. So I guess what we need to figure out is figuring out how to give it to God and trusting him with it. And then just taking that peace that comes with knowing he will lead us. He will guide us. He'll protect us. Let him be that rock in your life. Let him be that rock in my life where we hide, where we trust, where we know that he's bigger than we are. Is he smarter than we are? Yeah, I know, right? He's smarter than we are. He's been around a lot longer than we are. He already knows how it's going to work out. All we got to do is trust him and say, I'm going to give it to you. I will trust you. And that's when we can peace out. Peace out, you guys. Have a great morning. I'll see you again tomorrow.